Alim, an all-male Ifugao chant characterized by a poetic and symbolic series of songs conducted only in religious rituals by qualified Alim chanters. It is divided into three parts, Adolna, Hapang, and Alang, which are all composed of ritual genres and narrated dramatic discourses. Hongan di Tagu, a prestige ritual of the Ifugao performed in Alim to promote well-being. It has four types: basic Hongan di Tagu, Kinohag, Dinupdup, and Uyauy.
Ifugao is home to numerous beautiful rice terraces and chants, a form of a traditional verbal art. However, unlike other Ifugao chants, an all-male chanted called Alim is less well known. Only a few Ifugaos have written about it. One of them is Pedro Indunan, who said, Alim has the attributes of a ritual myth, chanted rather than recited, and is associated with the Ifugao belief in magic relative to childbearing, fast multiplication of animals, and increase in one's wealth and prestige. Arsenio Manuel also stated that Alim was chanted for various occasions, including as a ceremonial for a sick person. The live Piwong Alim performance from 1975 that took place during the Hongan de Tagu, a ceremony for the well-being of Angelina, a sick woman with lumbar pneumonia, was the subject of Rosario Bona de Santos' dissertation.
In the year 1966, during Henry Otley Bayer's wake in Banawe, according to Manuel, an Alim was recited in his honor and for the welfare of those he had left behind. Bayer was one of the writers who wrote about the Ifugao culture and classified the Alim as an epic. In February 1975, Rosario Bona de Santos' former student, Venancio Uyan, invited her to engage in an Alim from Piwong during an Hongan de Tagu rite for the benefit of the sick woman. De Santos became aware of the value, sophistication, and complexity of the Alim on that event.
The Alim was believed to have been originated with rice terraces builders back then in Calidian and Nayon. Then it spread when those chanters of the Alim took refuge to nearby settlements to avoid the Spanish colonial rule. At the start of the 20th century, a handful of scholars have tried to document it. But because only a few of the Ifugaos have known about it, different scholars have produced different interpretations of the tradition and ritual. An Alim was even chanted to Henry Otley Bayer during his wake in Banawe. A tape recording of it was actually taken.
The significant people involved in performing and making the Alim are the Kadangyan or the upper-class sector of the Ifugao people. Although the art itself also features essential characters like Umangal and Bukan, Gabigat and Bukan, Tindungan and Pagapag, Maguling and Tinundun, and an unidentified narrator.
The whole report basically centers around the Ifugao Alim, which traverses the character of the God Makunungan, along with a few more gods and deities within their own concept of heaven. The significance, structure, content, and voice of the Piwong Alim will then introduce more ideological beliefs as they refer to it as a flagship ritual, a sociological charter, and extraordinary myths that affect the well-being of the Ifugaos.
The text provided an implicit definition of Alim by addressing its importance, structure, content, and context. As the author noted while transcribing it, the Alim is poetic and symbolic. It was carried out delicately. Every ritual had to be observed. It is an all-male chant that is only performed by trained Alim chanters for religious purposes. The three components of the Alim are named after the parts of a rice plant that represent an ideology of growth toward well-being: Adolna for trunk, Hapang for branches, and Alang for greenery. In order to define Alim, the author also referenced the perspectives of Rufina Changalao, Pedro Indunan, and other Ifugao literature writers who are knowledgeable on the subject. They claim that Alim is the pinnacle of the complex Ifugao rituals, a sociological guide, and a mystical myth that promotes well-being.
The Piwong Alim is mainly done through singing or chanting that has many unique techniques used while being executed. But the thing is, only males can do the deed, and before that, should have undergone through a long, difficult, and tedious form of apprenticeship, not just from one individual, but from multiple teachers that have already known how to perform the Alim. That in itself shows how hard it must be to pass this form of art through generations. Another would be the length of time it takes to perform a single alim. It usually takes half a day to as long as 3 days in order to complete one, since it is composed of multiple songs that has its own purpose in the ritual. Because it has multiple songs, it's not sufficient for a single man to finish this. It needs multiple men that has their assigned roles in order to finish the ritual. But before that, offerings in the form of pigs, chickens, and other forms of value are offered to the gods and the performers. This gesture shows that in order for them to receive something that they want, they need to be able to offer something up. Through these techniques, we can see that it is focused in abundance. Abundance of time, number of songs, and chanting and offerings. Usually, sacrificing an abundance of something implies that someone wants to receive something in exchange for those sacrifices. The more you sacrifice, the more or better value you will get.
Singing or chanting is the main medium of Alim. It is a delicate chant that can go on for up to 3 days and is made up of narrated dramatic discourses. It includes poetic and symbolic language that is chanted in a specific regular rhythm. The Piwong Alim employs a mix of dramatic character dialogues and monologues, internal and external narration, and ritual genres. The chant's backstory revolved around a man and a woman who were getting divorced and were having a verbal argument. They were trying to recall their past together to determine who was at fault. Furthermore, the Alim is conducted only by qualified male chanters. No women are permitted to chant due to moral codes. There are phrases contained in the chant that speak of intimacies that should not be spoken in the presence of women. Apart from women, even Ifugao ritual performers are unfamiliar with Alim because it is a professional knowledge that requires a lengthy formal apprenticeship. The Alim is performed in a rigorous, sophisticated, and delicate manner. It usually lasts for 3 days because it is composed of multiple songs. Ifugao rituals are performed for a variety of reasons, but for the Alim, they are only performed for religious motives. Similar to other rituals, this one also entails making an offering to the god and the performers. The preparation of the offerings should also be done by the kadangyan or the upper class. They believed that in order for the ritual to be successful, they needed to make an offering in order for their god to hear their prayer. It was only intended for the kadangyan because the Ifugaos believed that those in the upper class should also share their wealth with those in their tribe who were less fortunate. Singing and chanting are ways that the Ifugao people used to express their rich cultural heritage. They thought that by chanting and singing, they could communicate with their gods and establish a connection with them.
Alim as an art form and a significant part of the Ifugao ritual culture is not a literature for all of the population, especially to those that belong in the middle to lower social classes. Even the ritual performers they refer as Mombakis seem to not have familiarized themselves with Alim, as it is only considered to be chanted by the wealthy population of the community. This disparity then hinders the reception of the beautiful art by more people, especially to those that are part of the Ifugao culture. The language that is used to perform and construct the Alim is also facing extinction, Barton claims. And since a mixture of languages are used in Alim, the translation of the art is extremely difficult, making its production and proliferation infrequent. The Alim, as stated, is intended for the Kadangyan or for the upper-class Ifugao people, but more than the social status, the Alim serves its purpose for the various intentions of these affluent families, such as to tend grave illnesses, for prestige, commencing agricultural rights, or for their pleasure.
By looking at the text, it encompasses how verbal art and society relate to the culture of the Ifugaos. As stated a while ago, the unfamiliarity of the Alim even among the Ifugaos and the extinction of languages used also existed in other places even in contemporary times. Many customs are not widely known and are not given importance. Thus, this text serves as a wake-up call to readers and audiences that art is a wonderful avenue to express one's culture and thoughts. People may express themselves and communicate their thoughts with the world through art on a universal level. It provides opportunities to consider people's way of life and issues that are important to the people and the world as a whole. It is a component of a wider cultural conversation about context including identity, society, and nationality. The strongest ties and connections between various social groups are produced by art. Additionally, art encourages individuals to accept new concepts in order to advance society. Today's artists operate in and relate to a culturally diversified, highly advanced, and multifarious global world. People learn to value criticism through the medium of art. This method can be applied to address any issue that arises in society. Every society and culture should value art because it advances culture, identity, unity, and harmony.